All right, we heard the timer, so it's time for us to kick off. First of all, welcome everyone to MadeFor Taster about using data effectively to really understand your customers. Before we begin, I will quickly introduce myself. My name is Barbara. I'm the learning designer and community manager at MadeFor. And MadeFor is a learning organization in customer experience capability. So amongst many other topics that we're discussing during our bootcamps, customer science is one of them. And that's what we're going to talk about today. As you can see, hopefully on my screen, I am sharing a Miro board that we will be working on. So in the chat, you will see a link now, and I would highly encourage everyone to join in, browse around, have a look there, because there are a lot of interactive elements, which brings me also to our approach. So what is a free taster? I already said it shortly. It's a session using a Miro board and a Zoom meeting to explain a current topic in relation to our bootcamp. So again, join us on the Miro board, have a look, also maybe some other topics that might be of your interest, and Kwan will use it today in her presentation about customer science. So what is it that we're actually going to discuss? So our objectives of today are to gain an understanding of what we mean when we talk about customer science. So we will kick off with a bit of alignment on the topic. We're going to explore some best practices of using data effectively to understand our customers. And we're going to understand how analyzing data is crucial in every customer team. I already mentioned it briefly. MadeFor is a customer experience learning organization. So just to get a bit of an understanding of why we're talking about this topic today in relation to customer experience, we see that it is a top priority in business and believe that it really is for the next 5 years. However, only 43% of all businesses put CX as a top priority. So we want to see that in more and more organizations. And as opposed to that, we also see that 86% of buyers will pay more for a better customer experience. And if we talk about that CX capability in organizations, it is not necessarily a general CX rules. There are lots of different services, roles, and capabilities that fall under CX that you can see also in the picture in front of you. There is a lot of request for, so a lot of ask for new talent in those skills. One of them is data scientists. So that's really affiliated to the topic that we're also going to discuss today. But for example, also UX or customer experience management, product management, a lot of other capabilities fall under CX as well. So Kwan, talking about customer science today, but before you do, can you please introduce yourself and then you can take it away.
Yes, of course. Thanks, Barbara. So just a bit about myself and how I got into customer science. My study background is from a biomedical engineering background. And as I've gone more into software engineering and data science, I found this background to really be helpful in maintaining a human perspective throughout and asking, how is the different data affecting customers? How is it affecting people in general in society? I've worked for a small medium Dutch company for a bit, a technical installation company where I ran R&D process improvements and ran a couple data science proof of concepts. During my time there, I also did a couple live case studies on applied data science in industry and data strategy with other companies in the industry. And during that time, I also got into design thinking, and I started running a series of workshops to help colleagues identify innovation opportunities through understanding what the customer needs are and how we can better serve our customers. And yeah, that has led me to where I am today, where I'm helping students and professionals learn how to program, learn more about data and technology in various contexts. While advocating for good design practices and advising companies and people on data collection practices and how to process those data. And yeah, I'm currently affiliated with Digital Society School in Amsterdam, and I do some things on the side in building a community at AI and Design. And yeah, getting into what customer science is. So yeah, customer science is a trifecta between the different fields of technology, behavioral science, and data. You can also say that it's data science, marketing, and business, but overall it's a rigorous identification of systems that systems and customer experiences that can help you better serve your customers. So really understanding what are your customer needs, what are their values on an in-depth level, could even be to the point where you have a better idea of who they are, how they live their lives, and then relating that to what that means for your business. How can you best serve them sustainably? So as businesses, we also have to look at the financial sides of things and yeah, how can we continue to best serve our customers while not going bankrupt? So yeah, to look further into customer science, I just like to present some case studies. And some of these are really big and I'm sure you've heard of it before, but we found some really nice facts on these that I'd really like to share. So first, with Spotify, how they're using their customer data is in a really creative way. And it's one of my favorite case studies as well. So in their curation and recommendation engine, actually from 2017, they've recommended over 30% of the overall music, which has increased a lot from 2015, which was less than 20%. And I'm sure now in 2021, the number is even higher. So through methods of collaborative filtering, they're able to recommend products based on similar user profiles. So whatever music you've listened to, they collect all that historical data, the music that you like and don't like, and they're able to put it through this, this algorithm that provides a better recommendation engine. And through natural language processing, they scrape articles, blogs, metadata on artists and on songs to produce some hot hits on the most relevant terms. And they also analyze their audio. So all the music, they create this like features from the songs, depending on tempo, keys, time signature, beats, etc. And they're able to cluster similar music to provide a better recommendation. So these are really algorithm-based. This is a really algorithm-based case. Now I'd like to show some more data analytics, a more data analytics case, which is with Coke. So they, although they also do introduce some, they also use some AI approaches as well, but it's less than Spotify. And if you know or may have heard of the cherry Sprite flavor Coke, this new flavor they were able to come up with, I think in 2017, was because they had a self-serve vending machine in over, I think they had 40,000 units across the United States and some in Japan as well in certain countries. And they allow people to mix and match flavors. More than 150 beverages were made through this, and analyzing social media data and analyzing the sentiment of what people think of each taste of each flavor, they're able to identify that, yeah, the best flavor is cherry Sprite, along with one other flavor, and they produce this into a new product. So there's also a video that we've put on the Miro board. We're not going to play it now, but if you have time after, feel free to take a look, and it explains this this case really nicely. Another way Coke, before we go to the next case, another way Coke also, Coca-Cola really efficiently use their marketing spendings is they also use image recognition technology to analyze social media. And if they see, they recognize people drinking soft drinks from another brand that's their competition, then they they target more ads to those people, which makes sense because you don't want to spend marketing spends on people who are already your customers or are really loyal customers. Next case study is from Starbucks. So Starbucks uses data analytics for menu design and optimization. In 2015, they had a firm run customer research, and they found out that 43% of people who drink tea don't add sugar. So this allowed them to create products that this allowed them to create 2 types of unsweetened iced tea products. And another report also showed that 25% of consumers don't add milk to their iced coffee when they're drinking it at home. So this allowed them to launch unsweetened and sweetened iced coffee without milk or added flavors. Another way that Starbucks uses data is through their rewards program. So they collect data on, what have people ordered throughout time? What is their order frequency? When do they order it? And with this information, they're able to send more personalized offers and marketing materials. And from these 3 cases, some important takeaways that I'd like to share with you is that, customer science is a 2-way street. It's not only about understanding customers through data, but also understanding data through customer behavior. So this doesn't necessarily mean looking at the data and you will, gain right away insights on your customers, but sometimes it also requires more human approaches beyond data. And sometimes it's not about what data you have, but also the infrastructure and ecosystem that you build for generating and collecting these data. So can you use your understanding of customer behavior to help you get to a better place where you can serve your customers better? So similarly to how Starbucks uses their loyalty program and how Coke decided to put up these vending machines, these self-serve vending machines. To take a quick look at the customer science bootcamp flow that we'll be following. A lot of the examples that we saw were very much in the end stage of innovation and product development, where services are already created for customers. But getting there, there's also a lot of other steps that we can do with data still. And in the bootcamp that we've developed, we're looking at data on a more beginning stage level, and we'll be following this flow to start building the skills to work with data to start understanding your customers, even when you're not sure which ideas you want to follow, what strategies you want to take to best serve them. So just to take a look at this flow, we begin first with the problem. So identifying the symptom and coming up with some hypothesis on what the cost could be. So it could be that, I don't understand where all my marketing efforts or spendings are going. That's also a problem. And that is coming from a more business side, but the problem is that, you're not understanding how your customers are interacting with your organization. The second is insight. We go into data exploration and data analysis, and we'll be looking at methods for gaining insights also beyond data sets. So from user research, how do we better understand our customers before diving into viewing them as data? And next is prototype. After having a hypothesis on having a hypothesis that we want to test, we predict where our best opportunities lie. So where can we best serve our customers? Or another question could also be, who can we best serve? And other cases on prototyping ideas that you think your customers might react to. And communication is also a really important part of customer science. You need to be able to communicate your findings with visualizations and report. And here we'll be looking at some storytelling techniques. And yeah, there's a story in your customer journey here as well. And ending with a product stage, here we'll be productionizing models to provide long-term insights on your customers. And I believe that leaves us with some time for questions.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much, Kwan, for walking us through those case studies and also quickly showing on how that translates into the bootcamp flow that we're following. For the Q&A part, I've already, as you can see, prepared a couple of questions that we're going to do a bit of voting on, also to get a bit of a better understanding of how Miro works. I will explain that in a bit. Before I do so, I would also like to welcome Simon Marks, who will also join in for the Q&A part, as he's also part of the customer science development team. So thanks for being here, Simon, with us today.
Thanks very much. Nice to meet everyone.
Awesome. So as you can see, I will quickly walk through this. There are a couple of questions prepared on the Miro board, and I see a lot of you are here already, but I will share the link again if you're not here. Have a look through these questions, and we're going to decide on the top 3 of sticky notes that we're going to discuss together with Kwan and Simon. Naturally, if you have any other questions beside the 3 and we have a bit of extra time, you can grab a sticky note from the left here and pop your questions in the little canvas that you see underneath. But let's start with 3, see how far we get. I will start the voting now. So what you have to do, you have a minute or so to go through the questions, cast 1 vote for your favorite question that you want to have answered, and we're going to have a look. If you see on the toolbar below, there is this little thumbs up icon that you can click if the vote hasn't started yet, but I'm going to launch it now, and hopefully you are able to see it as well. If you have casted your vote and you have another question already in mind that you want to ask, again, feel free to grab the sticky note and put it in the canvas below. All right, we're processing the results. Let's have a look. What are some of the favorite questions? So I see we got a couple of votes in. So let's start with the first one. Which skill did you find most difficult to learn? I'm actually curious from both people here. So maybe Kwan, you can start. Did you have a specific one that you can already think of?
Which skill I found most difficult to learn? I feel like the process of learning is also, there's always like something difficult. I would say something more on a higher level of being able to identify which steps to take. So when you're looking at data, you have this huge data set, but yeah, which is the best step, which is the best approach to getting insights. Sometimes that's, yeah, a bit of like experimentation and play. So I would say finding like a nice workflow for myself. I feel like this is also a very individual basis because everyone has a different process, different workflow. And for me, just finding something that works best for me.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes a lot of sense. Simon, do you recognize that, or do you have any other specific thing in mind when it comes to this question?
that that one's up with my top three. I think as just an alternative for people, the most difficult one for me, I think, was around interviewing. So I know it sounds a very grand word for when we're talking about data science, but a lot of the challenge comes about not with the technology, not with working with the data, but starting off with and understanding what the problem is. And most of the time, that starts with talking to people within your company, your team, and trying to figure out with them who will not have all the answers or have the question framed the right way, and teasing out with them individually or as a group. So the idea of a interview or discussion around what the problem is, probably the skill that was most difficult to learn. And of course, like most things, always learning and improving and working on better techniques for doing that.
Yeah, thank you for that. That makes a lot of sense. And I can imagine also because it differs, of course, in every situation. So how to go about it, how to make sure it's a good starting point of the rest of your flow. Thanks for that. Well, let's stay with you then for a bit, Simon. Another question I see was voted for is what value does customer science bring to an organization? So I think, of course, we know it, but maybe you can elaborate it a bit better also for people joining us today.
So I would generally sort of break it into two parts for introducing it. One is customer science. The main tool set it brings is working with and knowledge of data and how that can go about making change. So part of customer science is being that leading light for other parts of the business to start using and thinking about data in a different way. It shouldn't only be with one team about how they go about that. So, customer science can lead as a team, as a discipline that can seep into other parts of the business to be much more data and factual driven in how things work and run and decisions are made. So I think that's a sort of high level one across all the business. But then the sort of second part to it, I would say, is around the thinking that people would go through with, for example, say two parts. Say it was a marketing team and a finance team, supporting them in a very detailed and tactical way about how they go about their business. Because there's lots of really specialized skills and thinking that Kwans talked through already today that really helps shape both from a tactical level and a strategic level how those teams work and develop themselves. So in summary, leading way about how the organization thinks about different aspects of data and help them improve, but then also tactically how they go about their business on a sort of day-to-day basis.
Thank you for that. That's a good part. I especially like the part where you said being the leading light indeed for other parts of the business, because it also very much emphasized on how it feeds into all the different teams and that it's not a siloed unit in itself indeed. So thanks for that. I see two more voted ones. So let's also have a look at what stickies have been put on the board. But Kwan, I think you've already mentioned it, some key activities in customer science, but are there a couple of other ones that you can elaborate on?
Apart from the flow, I would say there's also coming up with strategies. So at the end, once you've gained your insights, I would say like the creativity in finding a strategy to build on those insights. So you have insights and you can get to some decision making, but sometimes it's not necessarily about making a decision, but creating a strategy that will work long term as well. So for example, if say you figured out that or trying to think if I should use one of so in our problem in the bootcamp is that the marketing spend is not efficiently used, and identifying, or like what we hope you will identify is that it's a way complex problem. And I think a skill here at the end is also coming up with a strategy that will help the company on a longer basis rather than on a short term, to identify which customers to do now, but how do you keep that going throughout? Yeah, I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And also for already giving a sneak peek of the problem we're exploring with the bootcamp. I see there are a couple of more questions on the board. So interesting one, the first one, how to gain data as a startup without customers. Simon, any thoughts, or Kwan maybe? Whoever wants to go first.
I'm just trying to parse through this. I suppose it depends what sort of data we're talking about. But I'm not sure who asked the question. And as apologies if it's a sort of basic answer, but you know, there's lots of really great sources that are open source that provide reams of product, commercial data, demographic data that you can draw upon. There's loads of great ones sitting on AWS in sort of large data space on there. So it's open source areas. Then there's sort of paid for crawler and aggregators. Ones we're working through right now is with our web hose, social listening tools. You can subscribe to that. And then third, there's probably a group of paid for data that you would work through in a customized manner to survey customers, to do some market research that would bring things in that way. So that's sort of outside in perspective. And then other areas we worked with sort of customers on is when you're starting out, how do you build out your customer list, for example, or your newsletter subscriber list from zero, and how you build out that way. And there's a number of different sources and techniques for doing these sorts of things. So I'll stop there because it may be rambling a bit. There's lots of different ways you can bring it in and grow that data set. But there's a couple of flavors.
Thank you. I saw the question came from Nick. Nick, does that answer your question? You can either unmute to say yes or no, or just pop it in the chat if you like.
Yeah, it was just, it's a big question, so it's hard, I guess. But yeah, this answers a part of my question for sure. Yeah.
Thank you.
Awesome. And yeah, I just wanted to add on something to here as well, because even without customers, if you want to have a successful startup, it's also identifying your target group. And when you know your target group, you can sort of, from what Simon says, still find their demographics, find data from the web, just to kind of build some personas there.
Awesome, thank you. I see we are almost out of time, and I would really like to also collectively wrap up. So we will make sure to also pop in the answers to the other questions on the board in our LinkedIn event group. So if you want to have a peek there, please do so. Thanks for submitting the questions and being with us today. Big thanks to both Kwan and Simon for joining in as well, answering the questions and showing a bit more about customer science, what it is, and what are some best practices and case studies. Before we are wrapping up, I would quickly like to launch last poll just about your experience of today and if you would like to learn more. So if you can do that, that would be awesome. And if you've done so, the last thing that rests me is to thank everyone for joining in. It was really great to have you all here and wishing you a really lovely day.